Shotgun Tom Kelly, and now that I have your attention, you wanted to be close to him in the dugout during his impressive 15-year major league career because he was always watching, listening, and looking for an edge. Now, Kurt Bavacqua brings that edge to Dirty Kurt's Dugout, where you can listen, watch, and be a part of the most honest, informative baseball show available today. Now, here's Kurt.
Afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the show on this Monday afternoon. We'll get into baseball standings in a few minutes. But first of all, I'm repping a pretty cool hat here I got in the mail today from a gentleman down in Georgia that runs a facility called the Heating Lab. So if you, it's a good way to get free advertising. Send me a cool hat or shirt. That's called, I think they pronounce that HO when you do things like that. So Doug Laughlin down in Georgia, I thank you. Good luck with your facility. If I'm ever in that area, I'll stop and see you. They're a few miles north of Atlanta for all of you East Coasters that might need a facility for your kids. It's a travel ball organization and hitting school and clinics and all kinds of good stuff for the kids. Want to thank Cindy and Tony for the hospitality they provided to producer Joe and I out at Hacienda Casablanca on Cinco de Mayo. That was fun stuff. And I got to tell you, the bands that were there were fabulous. Those guys have turned into the Humphreys of East County, I think. Boy, they've got some pretty talented people, and they got a nice stage set up. I got to thank COVID for it, and I think Tony and Cindy probably do also, because I don't think they would have thought of turning their parking lot into a place to eat. And there's tables set up out there, and I remember going there before the pandemic hit, and it was a parking lot. And of course, when you had a restaurant, I don't think it ever crossed anybody's mind that, hey, we're just going to cordon it off, blockades all around. And instead of parking cars in here, we're going to have tables so people can eat outside as well as inside. So they had parties going on everywhere. It was great fun. The rock band Laguna was there. I introduced Viva Santana. I think producer Joe introduced the rock band because I got into, I was cussing up a storm in San Diego. The worst traffic I've seen since the pandemic came back. So I guess we're back at it again. I was hoping that with all the people that were working at home and everything that had kind of shifted from going to the office to staying at home quite a bit, that things were going to change. But no, it took me an hour and 40 minutes to drive somewhere that would have normally taken 35 minutes, 40 max. I wasn't a real happy camper. And we gave away the Chevron gift card last week to Kyle Lundy. And, you know what? I'm going to give somebody in San Diego here today a Hacienda gift card. So if you're wondering where Hacienda Casablanca is, 700 North Johnson, out in El Cajon, Cindy snuck me a couple of those gift cards during the festivities at at Cinco de Mayo, and we're going to give them away. We're going to give one away today. I don't know how, but we'll figure it out. Joe, think about it, and we'll give it away by the end of the day. So, you people in San Diego, if you don't live in San Diego, there's no sense in trying to enter unless you want to have it sent to you by Amazon, which I don't think will work out too well. And also, I want to thank our friend Tom Drake at Balboa Chevron on the corner of Balboa and Genesee for the gracious gift cards that they provide for the show, and to make all of you out there happy campers when you win. I gotta tell you something. I have a new favorite besides a Padre. I got a new favorite guy in Major League Baseball, and his name is Rowdy Tellez. There he is. Now, this makes him look not like the kind of person that he is. This guy is a kick. National League Player of the Week, so he's a player too. I just saw an interview with him because of the National League Player of the Week thing on MLB Network a couple of hours ago. And I got to tell you, he was cracking two guys on the setup, me, and also himself. You know what? Not himself. I take that back. He's as straight-faced as you could possibly be. Really, really funny kid. And you got to root for him. After you see an interview like that with a player, you got to root for him. Naturally, when Milwaukee comes into San Diego, not going to be rooting for him, but I'm going to be rooting for him when he's not playing here in San Diego. So Doug Laughlin just tuned in and said, nice hat. Yeah, thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. So if you guys recall, last week had Tony Perez. And the one thing that I don't think we got across, and I can't figure out why, because somebody asked me about this, was they thought that they mistakenly heard that what Tony Perez's signing bonus was. Tony Perez signed out of Cuba for $2.50, which was the cost of his visa. But he also got a plane ticket to Miami. Shipped from Havana to Miami on a plane. I don't know how much that cost then. And $250 for his visa. That's how much it cost to get a Hall of Famer on your ball club back then. And it was the Cincinnati Reds. And one of his stops during his minor league career were right here in San Diego, where he won the Most Valuable Player Award in 1964. You know, it's easy to see when you watch baseball consistently like I do, and I'm sure a lot of you do. And you guys chime in if you've got something to say. Anybody out there watching or listening. You want to know why the Bakers and Baker Jr., that's what it said on the back of Dusty's uniform over the last weekend. The Showalters, LaRussas, and Bocci's of the world are successful because analytics are partially ruining the game. And let me give you an example. And I'm going to use a Padre game as an example, even though I don't want to point out Bob Melvin, because it's not the manager. It's the analytics department. So in other words, it's baseball ops. If a manager gets put in a position and his bosses upstairs tell him he has to do something, he's got to do something. Those guys that I pointed out, that I named, along with Bob Melvin, I think it's kind of changed over up in LA with Dave Roberts. And I'm sure there are a couple of other managers around Major League Baseball that aren't getting orders, aren't getting lineups, aren't getting in-game communication that's telling them what to do, or predeterminedly set up, as was the case here in San Diego on Friday night, with the Padres leading the Miami Marlins 3-2 after winning the first game of the series on Thursday night. It was predetermined with Yu Darvish on the mound that Robert Suarez and Steve Wilson were going to work. And if I just went in and out on your screen, we've been having a slight issue. So the eighth inning comes around. Darvish did a whale of a job, 7 complete innings. He only gave up 2 runs. He brings a lead, the Padres and him bring a lead into the 8th inning, 3-2. They bring in Suarez from the bullpen. He throws 7 pitches. 7. 6 strikes, and the inning's over. I'm thinking to myself, man, he's throwing the ball well. If Rogers is not available tonight, which it turned out that he wasn't, because that's why it was predetermined, I guess they think Rogers is being overworked here in San Diego. He can't go out and pitch an inning after pitching an inning the day before. I don't know. So Suarez is out of the game in the 9th inning. And in comes Steve Wilson. Why? I ask why. If you're sitting at the game or sitting in front of a television screen, you can see the way Robert Suarez is throwing the ball. I don't care, with the exception of Rogers, because he's a proven closer and he's proven to be nasty and he's proven to be able to throw the ball to spots that he can throw to. If a catcher calls for a ball low and outside, he either throws it low or outside, or it's a little low and a little outside. Or in other words, he's not going to make a mistake out over the plate. That's how pitchers are successful. I have nothing against Steve Wilson. Nothing at all. What I am against, and I think it's starting to turn, at least partially, is baseball is starting to go back to old school. More on that in a minute. So, was it also planned for so-and-so to get 4 hits and drive in 5 runs? And when I say so-and-so, Hosmer, Machado, anybody, and it started to go 7 innings, which Yu Darvish did. Nobody makes an error, and all of that stuff actually happens. That's not the way it works, folks. You know it. I know it. I mean, 50 miles north, Steve Trout, a few games ago, had 5 at-bats, got on base every single time. The next night, the best player in baseball, arguably, 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts. Nothing in baseball can be predetermined. You can't put it in a computer and print it out and say, this is the way to go. It can't happen. The Padres were lucky to have won that game last night because I got to tell you, Steve Wilson got the team in some hot water in the ninth inning. Would Robert Suarez have breezed through the inning? You don't know because it's not predetermined. So possibly the only thing that's predetermined is how the game's being played nowadays. You don't know what I mean? I know. I don't know what I mean either, because I saw in an interview with Newsweek, solid publishing company, Eric Chavez, the Mets coach, recently told a journalist with Newsweek that his players are coming up to him and telling him that the baseballs being used in their nationally televised games are different than the other games that aren't nationally televised. Naturally, every Met game is televised locally. I'm talking about nationally televised, like games on ESPN or Fox Sports, not the local stuff, to make the game look better. So they give them a juiced up ball. In particular, this night, they were playing the Phillies, and the final score was 10-6. You're not seeing a whole lot of 10-6 games in baseball if you look across the board nowadays. And you know why? Because the baseball's been unjuiced. Batting average is way down. It's like 230. The average. Home runs are down. That wasn't supposed to happen. Because humidors are in every park. I'll get to that in a minute. But the other thing I want to get to, because of the fact that I think we're going back a little bit. The nerds and the analytic people and all the sabermetric folks are starting to see that it's not their way or the highway. Analytics have been embraced by old school baseball people because it's common sense that you can use the information that you can derive by all the analytics that are put into a computer system to your advantage. But you just can't go 100% that way. Doesn't work that way. So speaking of the game changing and things happening, we're all familiar with Madison Bumgarner, the outstanding pitcher for the now Arizona Diamondbacks. Won World Series with the Giants when Bochy was there in 2010, 2012, 2014, basically dominated Kansas City Royals in a World Series contest. Something happened with him in a start last week that I've got to show you, because this is something this is a still. I'm going to show you a video in a minute, but this is a still of umpire Dan Bellino checking Mad Bum's hand, as we've seen umpires do throughout the course of the last couple of seasons, and it's all good. The problem with it is that this still could have very well been a video because this is actually, is this a video? I don't know if that was the video. We're going to pull up the video for you here. Now, this is Mad Bum getting ticked off on a pitch that was a ball. We all know that Madison Bumgarner could be hot under the collar sometime. This really wasn't the video that I wanted to show you guys, but the still, and you guys will get the picture, is umpire Dan Bellino standing there holding Madison Bumgarner's hand when he comes off the field, because Madison Bumgarner hollered at the home plate umpire. Bellino is the first base umpire. Here's what I wanted to show you. Now watch this. Dan Bellino was staring at Madison Bumgarner right now, and he did it. That video was cut short. He did it for at least 5 to 7 seconds, where he had his hand in his hand, and he was just staring at him. Just like this. He was staring at him, just waiting for him to respond. And he wanted him to respond so he could throw him out of the game. This is called umpire baiting. If you watch your local team the umpires check the pitchers coming off the mound. If they give them their glove or if they show them their hand, they're going to look at it and it's going to be it. I'm talking about a second or two, if that long. Bellino stood there and he looked at Madison Bumgarner in the face, waiting for him to look up, not even looking down at his hand, for a solid 4 or 5 seconds, 6 seconds. That's a long time. It's a long time. And Bellino apologized for his actions. Even to go so far as to say that during his 15-year career, he goes back to somebody told him something at the beginning of his career, that you umpire every game like your family's sitting in the first row. And he said, I didn't do that night. Well, I got news for you. The only reason this guy apologized was because he got reprimanded from either the Umpires Association or Major League Baseball. I haven't even heard whether or not he's been fined. If he hasn't, shame on Major League Baseball, shame on the Umpires Association. He needs to get fined for his actions. It was so blatant, it wasn't even funny. That's that. Now on to Eric Hosmer, who I know we've got a lot of fans in San Diego or Kansas City that watch this show. Eric naturally is with the San Diego Padres and has been taken a little bit of abuse, especially last year. Well, I got to tell you something. Eric Hosmer's playing some baseball this year. And here's what he had to say about new Padre manager, Bob Melvin. This is one of the reasons I think we're going back to old school a little bit. Eric Hosmer says that old school mentality, talking about Bob Melvin, you know, guys on second, get them over. Guys on third, get him in. I think maybe he didn't say I think maybe it kind of got away from us for a while. You got to read between the lines on some of this stuff. And it is so obvious that what we've been talking about for years is taking place right under our eyes. And they're trying to take the game away from us. Eric goes on to say a lot of the launch angle, get the ball in the air, and all of that stuff is going on. So Eric Hosmer's almost hitting 400. You got Hosmer and Machado in the same lineup, and they're leading the National League in hitting, both Machado and Hosmer, as of 3 or 4 days ago. That's pretty good stuff. Pretty good stuff. So that's one of the reasons, added into a lot of other reasons, I watch the approach that the hitters have. And I'll give you 2 examples out of the game that I watched yesterday. Was Jurickson Profar, even though he bad base running blunder, but I'll get to that in a minute. And also Abrams. I could tell by the way they swung the bat at the pitch that they were trying to hit the ball the opposite way. I got to tell you, I went watching games for a couple of years where it didn't matter what game. The last time I saw it, as a matter of fact, was the game that made the difference, in my mind, in the 2017 World Series between the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Houston Astros. That was the last time I remember seeing, and it was Carlos Correa and Jose Altuve, where you knew that they were trying to hit the ball the other way. The difference between, and this, both of these situations happened in the first inning of the 7th game of the World Series. And it was the determining factor in the game. Because one team scored because they did the little things, and the other team didn't. And the Astros went on and won. I know, you can talk about the trash cans all you want to. I'm talking about fundamentals here and the little things. So Gabe Kapler was in the news again for pointing out, after the Phillies' devastating loss to the New York Mets, after they lost the lead of 7-1 in the 9th inning. Of course, Gabe saw that as an opportunity to emphasize his position to always show up your opponents whenever you possibly can, or in other words, bunt and steal bases, no matter what the score. The unwritten rules that you guys call it of baseball. Well, speaking of unwritten rules, let's pull up that still in Nestor Cortez, Joe, and we will. That is Yankee pitcher Nestor Cortez on your left, who just completed his 7th inning of no-hit baseball. and he's looking at one of the iPads that are in the dugout or something in the dugout with probably what looks to be a coach, but it's probably one of their analytic people. Okay, now you say, how can they put this up on the board? The guy's throwing a no-hitter. But that's not the reason I'm showing you this. I'm showing you this because of the post that the person made that put this picture up, because we pulled it off Facebook. I saw it on Facebook a couple of hours ago. Well, it can't be a couple of hours ago. Yeah, maybe, because they're 3 hours ahead of us. So Nestor Cortes, of course, loses his no-hitter in the 8th inning, the next inning after that. Not post was put up because it was put up after he lost the no-hitter. So the person rewound his DVR and he pulled that up, and his little post was, this guy's throwing a no-hitter. Why is anybody talking to him? You know, folks, they still talk to pitchers. Some pitchers like to be left alone, and you know those guys, mostly before the game. But if a guy's throwing a no-hitter, it's not like you have to just leave him alone. The thing is and has been is that, come on, man, you can throw that no-hitter. That you're not going to say something like that. That's the whole gist of the story. It's not that you don't talk to the guy in the dugout or he doesn't go and congratulate a guy on a home run or anything like that. Then some guys will just sit there and they're in the zone and they want to be left alone. And it's all good. It's all good. I want to give you guys some standings in Major League Baseball, because there's one thing about the National League West that blows me away. The entire division, all 5 teams, are playing 500 plus baseball. I mean, plus, not 500 and up. I'm talking about plus 500. In other words, the worst record in the National League West are the Diamondbacks at 15 and 14. There's no other team in baseball that are like that. That's like that. You know, the Mets, they've got a 6-game lead in their division. They're the only team above 500. You got the Brewers in the Central with the Cardinals on their tail. Both teams are at 500, but they're the only 2 in the National League Central. And then over in the American League, you've got the Yankees and Tampa Bay. They're the only 2 at 500. The Yankees are leading the division by 2.5 games over the Rays. In the Central, it's Minnesota over the Chicago White Sox, who are starting to make a little bit of a move. They've got a 3-game lead over the Chicago White Sox. The Twins do. And then, of course, the surprising Angels, just a lot of other people are surprised. None of the Angels are surprised. Have a slight half-a-game lead over the Houston Astros in the National League West. That is your Los Angeles Angels, which I find rather comical, but just the same. Padres are playing good baseball. They're struggling a little bit offensively right now. But speaking of offense, let me tell you what was done this year. And some teams had them last year. Under the radar, they had them. And which ones, we don't know because it was never publicized. But supposedly, all 30 major league teams have a humidor that stores the baseballs. Now, supposedly, the baseball flies easier and farther through humid air, more so than dry. Humid air, Denver and Arizona naturally. Lighter air. In more humid ballparks, and we're familiar with that here in San Diego because of the marine layer that comes in because Petco Park is right on the bay. The humidor is supposed to remove water from the air and will increase the bounciness of the ball, therefore helping to make the ball go a little further here. Well, it went far off the bat of Jorge Alfaro yesterday when he pinch hit. You know, there's nothing more exciting than a 2-out home run that wins the game in the 9th inning. And it happened yesterday here at Petco Park in San Diego when the Marlin pitchers are really dominating the Padre hitters. And then little things started to happen. And I mentioned earlier that Jurickson Profar made a base running blunder. And somebody pointed out again on social media that if it hadn't been for Profar, Grisham's ball would have been a hit because Profar wouldn't have been on. So him getting on base allowed the second baseman to play where he was. Outstanding play on Grisham's ball, but he made an errant throw to second base trying to get the lead runner, which I don't know if all of this would have played out. Remember, can't predetermine things in the game. If all of this would have played out the same way, if the second baseman would have just came up and threw Grisham out at first base instead of trying to get a double play. So Profar goes into second. He sees the ball get away from the shortstop and never stops going around third or going around second base towards third. And what happens? The pitcher makes an outstanding play. And one of the infielders retrieved the ball, threw the ball to the pitcher, and they were able to tag Jurickson Profar out before he reached third base, which you thought at the time that was the needle that broke the balloon. 2 outs, man on first now instead of man on first and third and 1 out. C.J. Abrams, the hitter, one of the situations that I was talking about earlier, he hits the ball the opposite way. It's a base hit to left field, which allows Bob Melvin to pinch hit for Trace Thompson with Jorge Alfaro, and the fireworks began. It was fun stuff. So these humidors are supposed to help put more offense in the game. That's a great get right there, Joe. I mean, it looks like a meat locker, but those are actually boxes of Rawlings baseballs, as you can probably read. And that is a humidor I have no idea what park, but it doesn't even matter because they store up to 200 or 300 baseballs at one time because you could possibly need that many. I think a normal night they'll bring down 120 or so baseballs to use for the game. But they're in the humidor, and supposedly it's supposed to help with the consistency around the league. Well, you can tell by Eric Chavez's interview in Newsweek that consistency is not there on Major League Baseball.
You mind if I jump in here and ask you a question?
So if you're going to use the juiced up ball for one team and not use it for the other, I'm not talking about guys that are playing in a game against each other that night. I'm talking about teams that aren't playing against one another. They have an advantage or a disadvantage, however you want to look at it, as to what baseballs are being used.
Can I ask a technical question, Kurt?
Be my guest.
So I run a lab at work, and so I'm kind of a technical guy. And why are they in boxes here? If they were to be all treated as a humidor, as what a humidor should do, shouldn't they be in at least open boxes or empty box out of the boxes? So
I don't have any idea, but you could ask. We can certainly send an email to MLB and ask them about that. Or I spent some time at SDSU in the last week in the engineering department of these kids that were putting together a backboning machine that was phenomenal. I mean, it's amazing how smart kids are nowadays. But I bet you we could find out from somebody at SDSU in one of their departments on whether or not there's a difference between a dozen baseballs with a lid on it and a dozen without a lid on it. I myself think that as long as the temperature's regulated, I don't think that very thin box is going to make a difference in them being in boxes and being without. You know,
that'd be a fun experiment. I'm going to back out, but thank you.
I promised that that we were going to give a Hacienda gift card away. And we've run out of time. So I don't go back on my word very often, but I'm going to this time. So next show, I'm going to give away 2 Hacienda gift cards so that you can go down and enjoy the same kind of food that Joe and I enjoy at certain times throughout the course of the season and in the winter time. So tune in to the next show. Check your Facebook page or Dirty Kurt's Dugout local YouTube page. Please subscribe. That will help us get through to you better and more efficiently. More subscribers, better off we all are. And we will also let you know when the next show is going to be. We're probably looking at Monday, the 16th at 3:15. So I bid you all a fond farewell. Again, I want to thank Tony and Cindy out at Hacienda, 700 North Johnson in El Cajon, and also our good buddy Tom Drake on the corner of Balboa and Genesee at the Chevron station. Buy that gas from him. You got to buy it somewhere. Until next week, this is Kurt Bavacqua saying goodbye, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.